Have you ever wondered what happens to a giant? Not when it rises, but when it falls. I'm not talking about the headlines, the press statements, or the strategic pivots. I mean the real process of dying, slow, quiet, and internal. In 2007, Nokia was the undisputed king. Its market value was over $300 billion, more powerful than Apple, Google, and Samsung combined. They owned 40% of the world's phone market. Their ringtone was the soundtrack of a generation. They didn't just sell phones, they defined communication. And yet, within a few short years, it was all gone. No war, no scandal, just silence, as the empire that once connected the world stopped connecting with itself. But this story, it isn't really about Nokia. It's about every empire that forgets why it was built. Every company, every leader, and every individual who once thought, we're too big to fail. The truth is, the moment you believe that, you've already started dying. Innovation turns into comfort. Meetings replace ideas. And those who once built the future start protecting the past. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'll show you exactly how Nokia, a $300 billion empire, was dismantled from the inside out. And I'll reveal the $150 billion lesson that could save your business, your team, or maybe even your career. If what you hear next makes you pause, even for a second, then you're one of the few still paying attention. Don't let this be just another story you scroll past. Share it. Comment on what you think the real turning point was. And subscribe, not for the algorithm, but because the truth only spreads when people still have the courage to whisper about it. At its peak, Nokia wasn't just a company. It was Finland's pride, an icon of technological dominance. But behind the polished glass of its headquarters in Espoo, a silent war was raging. Executives were split between two visions. One group wanted to modernize, to embrace touchscreens and software ecosystems. The other clung to what had made them rich, the hardware, the buttons, the nostalgia of the past. Inside Nokia, fear began to replace innovation. Every decision had to be filtered through layers of hierarchy. Every new idea had to pass a committee. And every committee had a reason to say no. When Apple launched the iPhone in 2007, many inside Nokia dismissed it as a toy. They believed their Symbian OS, old but battle-tested, was unbeatable. They believed customers didn't want touchscreens. They believed they still had time. But what they didn't realize was this: the future doesn't knock twice. In 2009, engineers inside Nokia did propose adopting Android. They ran simulations. They saw the potential. But the board refused. They feared losing control. They thought, why rent Google's ecosystem when we can own ours? And that single decision sealed their fate. By the time they partnered with Microsoft in 2011, it was already too late. The world had moved on. Consumers weren't buying phones anymore. They were buying ecosystems. Nokia was still building devices, while Apple and Google were building worlds. There's a name for this phenomenon: the blockbuster syndrome. It's what happens when success blinds you to change. When data replaces instinct. When your past achievements become your biggest weakness. Think about it. Blockbuster once laughed at Netflix. Kodak once dismissed digital cameras. And Nokia, the inventor of the modern mobile phone, ignored the very revolution it had started. Let's look at the numbers. Between 2007 and 2013, Nokia's global market share collapsed from 40% to less than 3%. The company's valuation fell by over $250 billion. By 2014, they had sold their entire mobile division to Microsoft for a fraction of what it was once worth. And what's worse, Microsoft's acquisition failed too. Within 2 years, they shut it down. Billions were written off. Tens of thousands lost their jobs. 2 empires fell, because one refused to see and the other thought it could resurrect the dead. The irony is brutal. Nokia had everything: capital, engineers, global brand power. But it lacked one thing: the courage to disrupt itself. When Apple disrupted the market, Nokia responded with committees. When Samsung flooded the field with Android models, Nokia doubled down on Windows phones. They weren't playing offense, they were negotiating their surrender. Every time they said, we'll catch up next year, the gap doubled. Every time they said, let's wait and see, the world moved faster. And soon Nokia wasn't a leader anymore. It was a legacy brand, a monument to what happens when a company stops listening to the future. So what's the $50 billion lesson here? It's not about software, it's not about market timing, it's about vision. You see, innovation doesn't die when you run out of ideas. It dies when people stop being brave enough to pursue them. Nokia's leaders weren't stupid. They were smart, experienced, and respected. But they made one fatal mistake. They confused success with security. They thought their position in the market was permanent. They thought customers were loyal. They thought the world would wait. It didn't. The real danger of success is that it makes you comfortable, and comfort kills faster than competition. Here is the truth no MBA will tell you. Disruption doesn't start in a competitor's lab. It starts in your own meeting room, the moment someone says, "Let's not take that risk." The moment a leader values stability more than relevance. So if you're watching this as a founder, a manager, or even just someone planning their next career move, ask yourself, what am I too afraid to change? What am I holding on to that's already obsolete? Because the day you stop reinventing yourself, you're already on Nokia's path. But this isn't the end of Nokia's story. After selling their phone division, the company quietly reinvented itself. Today, Nokia survives, not as a phone maker, but as a global leader in 5G infrastructure. They learned to build networks, not handsets, to connect the future, not cling to the past. And maybe that's the final lesson. Sometimes you have to let your old identity die so something new can live. If you made it this far, you're not like most people. Most will scroll, forget, and move on. But you're still here. You're still listening. You still care about what makes empires fall and what helps them rise again. So here's my ask. Don't let this be just another video. Share it so more people understand the cost of comfort. Leave a comment. Tell me the company you think is next. And subscribe, not for vanity, not for numbers, but because on this channel, we don't chase trends. We study patterns of power. We decode failure before it happens. And maybe, just maybe, we'll learn how not to repeat it. Because the truth doesn't die when companies fall. It only dies when people stop talking about it.